fresh meat.
There's someone in this house.
I want to know who I'm looking at.
Perhaps no urban legend of the 20th century has become as common as the one we've all heard around campfires or at sleepovers. It comes in different forms, but I'll broadly refer to it as the phone caller. It's become so common, it's been parodied time and again.
'Cause it's my turn for a scary story. I'm at home and suddenly, so I pick it up, but there's no one on the line. So I listen closer and I hear, and I call the police. Demand they come over to the tower and investigate. And it's a good thing I did. There was some creepy prowler calling from inside the house.
Hello?
Hello, Chad.
Who this?
Do you want to play a game?
Oh, no thanks.
Movies use the telephone as an important tool to frighten us. There's nothing quite like getting a mysterious phone call to conjure scares.
I'm your boyfriend now, Nancy.
Hello, John Clark.
Who is this?
My name is Keall.
Unless, of course, you're Gordon Smallwood.
Your father was born in Racine, Wisconsin. He lived in a green house on Monroe Street.
Where's my watch?
In your shoe. Under the bed.
A question you might ask yourself is, where did this urban legend come from? And how did it become so pervasive in our society? An urban legend rarely has just one origin. In the case of the mysterious phone caller, there are two major sources to look at. One is a real unsolved murder case. It was 1950. Janet Christman was babysitting when she was brutally murdered while calling for help. This unsolved real-life murder doesn't entirely fit the mold that has become the phone call urban legend, but is widely considered the true-life beginning of the story. It connects a fear of babysitting at home at night to a mysterious phone call. Now let's look back slightly further than the 1940s. A radio play entitled Sorry, Wrong Number became a popular thriller, which was reprised 7 times in Orson Welles called the greatest single radio script ever written. It would become a 1948 movie, one of the biggest films of that year.
All I know is that I'm a sick woman, and I'm all alone in this horrible empty house. I overheard a telephone conversation a while ago about a murder to be committed at 11:15.
To watch it, it isn't difficult to find how it connects to the phone call urban legend, and in some ways fills in the gaps.
What was that?
What was what, madam?
That clicked just now on my telephone. As though someone had lifted the receiver off the hook of the extension downstairs.
I didn't hear it, madam.
Well, I did. There's someone in this house. There's someone in the kitchen downstairs, and they're listening to me now.
I think the true life case of Janet Christman and Sorry, Wrong Number together melded into one urban legend that became pervasive throughout the 1950s and 60s. Fast forward to 1974's Black Christmas, a couple decades later, and we have what many consider the first widespread use of the legend.
Yes, the caller is in the house. The calls are coming from the house. Jess! Jess, get up! And don't go out there!
If you like this video, check out Scary Stories, available now on streaming and DVD. Although Black Christmas arguably gave us the first use, move ahead a couple years to 1977, in which filmmaker Fred Walton makes The Sitter. It encapsulates the babysitter and phone call urban legend into one tense, 20-minute short film that is probably the most pure telling of the story. 2 years later, he would direct nearly a shot-for-shot remake of this short to act as the first 20 minutes of what became his groundbreaking thriller, When a Stranger Calls.
Where is the girl?
I only called her 10 minutes ago.
I made her reservations for 8:15. We're going to be late.
Here she is now.
Dr. Lakis?
Mandrakis. It's
Oh, it's
okay.
okay.
Everyone
Everybody
gets it
makes
wrong
a
the first time. You're
You
Jill.
must be Jill. Come on in.
Hi, Jill.
Oh, the children are asleep upstairs. First door on your left at the top of the landing. Please, try not to wake them.
The infamous opening includes all the hallmarks of what is often included in the urban legend.
Hello,
Have you checked the children?
Dr. Mandrakis?
There is a babysitter, mysterious phone calls, discussion with the phone operator or police, possibly to trace the phone call, and of course, the caller was inside the house all along.
Leave me alone!
Jill, this is Sergeant Sacker. Listen to me. We've traced the call. It's coming from inside the house. Our squad cars are on the way over there right now.
The rest of When a Stranger Calls is kind of famous for being detached from that great opening. In the end, we return to Carol Kane's character, and it becomes a fitting conclusion to her story. But in between, we get a cat and mouse story that almost feels like an entirely different film. But it's hard to argue that the opening was incredibly influential to the genre and ended up creating what is probably the definitive version of the phone caller urban legend. Clocking in at exactly 13 minutes, the opening scene of 1996's Scream is a direct homage to When a Stranger Calls. Drew Barrymore isn't a babysitter, but otherwise it has nearly all of the same elements. And at 13 minutes, the film is one of the longest opening scenes of the last 40 years, and yet it doesn't presume to think that it can keep a modern audience engaged for a full 20 minutes.
You never told me your name.
Why do you want to know my name?
I want to know who I'm looking at.
The suspense cranks up quickly. Although the rest of the film is a lot of talking of tracing phone calls, which is common in this urban legend, in the case of Barrymore's Casey Becker in this scene, she isn't given a lot of time to react in a way that any smart teenager would. It is a very well-timed and choreographed scene, so that the killer keeps calling and introducing new things. A boyfriend, a movie quiz.
Come on, it'll be fun. Please. It's an easy category.
Please.
Movie trivia.
A Where Am I quiz.
Please leave me alone.
Answer the question and I will. What door am I at?
All things to distract her, engage her, keep her from hanging up and calling the police, or just plain making a run for it. Interestingly, when Ghostface is revealed, he is actually inside the house too, just like the urban legend. But at that time, Drew Barrymore's character is outside, something that wasn't possible before wireless phones. Here's another homage. Both protagonists running from the killer open the front door and are frightened by the police that are already there. By the time Scream came along, the phone caller urban legend was a cliche. Thanks to Wes Craven and Kevin Williamson, it was modernized with something audiences had not seen before. A story like The Phone Caller is a fascinating look at what fears we have and what fears take a life of their own in popular culture. Even with the advent of new technology, we still worry about who might be lingering in the dark. If you haven't already, please check out Scary Stories, now available on streaming and DVD. Thanks for listening to this episode of Scary Studies, the series that examines the stories, movies, and myths of what we find scary. All done with the ultimate message. Horror is fascinating.